Hello and welcome back to the Grand Tour of Northumberland Season 2. Today we're going to be looking at some bastles, a waterfall and a monument to a preacher. So let's get started.
Digging through a closet, walled cities, past lives and boxes. Music absorbed till it seeped from my skin. Can't stand to hear it. Means more to me than photographs. Pictures of backyard and northern sunsets are all that exist in my mind. Freshly cut lawns and daytime sprinklers, spider webs on a grey wooden fence. I remember the comedian.
So we're back at Black Middens and this is where we're going to start the walk. I'm joined with Neil and my daughter. Hello. Hence the reason for the mask, because we were riding in Neil's car because it's a car-to-car walk. And we're heading this direction. So this here is the remains of Black Midden Bastle. There's actually two bastles on the site. This is Black Middens Bastle 1. Bastles were fortified farmhouses during the time of the reivers. This one here is 16th century. The bottom floor was usually used for livestock. Okay, these are the steps to the main entrance. It's unlikely that the steps would have been here originally. It was probably like a ladder that they used originally, and the steps were probably added at a later date. And here you can see the size of the bar that they would have had in order to keep out the reivers. The people would have lived on the top level, which is now missing. You can still see some of the remains there, and down on the bottom they would have kept livestock. There's the original main entrance down there, which is now blocked up, and there would have been an internal entrance to the living quarters on the second floor. It's a very cool place, this. As I said, the steps were probably added at a later date, probably at the same time as these other entrances here. These two entrances on either side were also added at a later date. And there was the original entrance for the livestock. And then also at a later date were built these farm cottages, which are now left in ruins, and these are built with the remains of Black Middens 2, which is just over there. So these cottages would have probably been around about 18th century, after the unification of the crowns at least. This is all that's left of Black Middens 2, which was a second bastle on the site, within sight of the first bastle. As I said, the stone from this one was used to build the cottages at a much later date. Also from here you can see where the other bastles used to be. They're all within sight of each other originally. Obviously a lot of these trees wouldn't have been there. so they could signal to each other if there was a raid. On Friday the 30th of August in 1583, William Armstrong, better known as Kilmont Willie, led 300 men on a raid on the Tarset Valley. The raid attacked several bastles, burning them, including Black Middens. They stole 400 cattle, 400 sheep and goats, a number of horses, £200 worth of tools and farming implements, which was worth a lot of money in those days, £200, killed 6 people and maimed 11 people, and took away a number of hostages to be ransomed. The following year, on the 29th of September 1584, Kilmont Willie returned again with 300 men. This time they took 800 cattle, 60 horses, 500 sheep, £200 worth of farming equipment, killed 10 men and burnt 60 houses. So if the people who were on the top where they lived and the livestock lived below, then this bottom space would have had to have accommodated 13 cattle plus the horses. I don't think they would have had the sheep and goats in here because I don't think they would have all fit. And they would all have to have gone through that small door there. The chances are they probably kept the horses in here because they would have been most prized, and possibly some of the prize cattle, like maybe a bull or something. So that's like working out about there's 60 houses, so that would be 13 cattle per house if they stole 800 cattle. So you can just imagine the Armstrongs coming to attack this. Ignore these doors because they wouldn't have been there. There would have been a ladder up to the top there to set a light to it. They wouldn't have all had their own way either. They would have fought back because this area was inhabited by the Milburns and the Dodds, and they were quite renowned for their fighting skills. Hence the reason why 10 men died. I mean, they would have put up a fight against 300. That's a hell of a small army, really, isn't it? And then this. Beautiful blue skies and calm in the Tyne Valley. Here it's quite windy and cloudy. It's supposed to be dry today, so hopefully those clouds will stay off. So you just gotta stop and look where you've been. We actually came down through here from Kielder, and then we did like a loop of the Tarset Bastle Trail. This area is called Gatehouse, and this here is North Gatehouse Bastle, and on the other side of the road is South Gatehouse Bastle. They're very well preserved bastles, but they're privately owned. It's in people's gardens. And both of these were subject to the same attack that Black Middens was when they were burnt. Imagine having a bastle in your back garden, eh? Of course they'll have to maintain them. Very cool. The start of this walk is just following the road back the way we've driven until we get to the Pennine Way. This is actually one of the most beautiful roads in Northumberland until you see the views later on. That's the old schoolhouse, now converted. Imagine waking up to those views over there. Can't see it on my camera, the church in the distance over there has a good story. At the end of the Napoleonic Wars, they wanted something to do for the ex-soldiers and the ex-chaplains who ministered during the war. And they sent them off to different parts of the country, including the remote wilderness of Northumberland here. That one is at Greenhoff. and they were tasked with building churches. And that's one of the churches that they built at the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Black Middens is where we've just been, and we're headed to Highgreen. So there's about 4 miles of road work, and the entire length of this section is about 11.5 miles. Protected roadside verge. This verge is being positively managed by Northumberland County Council to conserve wild plants. I was just observing before the variety of vegetation in the verge. There's quite a few plants I don't recognise. So following this road up to the top of the hill, and then we go across on the Pennine Way. We've just met that lovely lady that we met at Chipchase Castle. Apparently this is where she lives. What a place to live there. Beautiful. Must be difficult in the winter though. There's Highgreen Manor. A very beautiful place. We actually talked to the lady who lives there at the Hollybush pub in Greenhoff at the end of the last walk. She was very nice as well. Very nice people who live around this area. This is an interesting signpost. I like this one. Anglican engine shed shooting but hut rebuild. Over there. This one says Catholic private family chapel in this direction. And this one here says Protestant illegal Presbyterian hill sermon. And that's where we're going. You can see Crossfell over there. Not sure I'll get it on the camera, it's right on the horizon. It's very, very clear for me. I spied this from the road, so I'm taking a little detour to go and have a look at it. It's an old lime kiln. Making quick lime to improve the soil. It's quite a substantial one actually, it's quite big. See if that gives you a bit of an idea of scale. Love old stuff like this. Nature reclaiming man's past. Very cool. Let's get back to the road. Next to the lime kilns, this very large scar in the landscape. It looks like quarrying of some sort. Check out these views. This is why this road is probably the most beautiful road in Northumberland. And we're heading up there. And if you think the view behind us was good, until you see the one in front of us. This is where we leave the road though, and we're going to follow the Pennine Way again in that direction. And here we have an old boundary stone marked with T. Not sure who T was, but everything on that side belonged to him. There's the Cheviot Hills over there. The big one's Cheviot. To the right is Coomfelm and Hedgehope Hill, and to the left is Windy Isle. We have 2 more sections before we reach the Cheviot, but we'll be there soon enough. That's where we're heading next, over there. Large parts of the Pennine Way are paved. It still has a lot of obstacles. This here is Peden's monument, also known locally as the Pepper Pot. Legend has it that it was built by the supporters of Alexander Peden. Alexander Peden was a Scottish Covenanter. He was born in Ayrshire in Scotland around 1625. He was forced to leave his church in 1662 after the restoration of Charles II and the persecution of the Covenanters. However, he immediately started preaching in the fields, and he quickly became famous as one of the most wanted men in Scotland. As a result, he started wearing a cloth mask in order so that he wouldn't be recognised. Peden's Hill's supposed to be one of the sites where he preached in order to avoid persecution in Scotland. He hopped over the border into England so he wouldn't be recognised. The monument and the stones surrounding are said to have been carried by his supporters on one of the days that he preached. There's quite a lot of rocks here, so there must have been a lot of supporters that came to hear him. Peden was eventually captured in 1673 and held on Bass Rock. He escaped deportation to the colonies and eventually found himself in exile in Ireland. He returned to Scotland in 1685 and he died in January 1686. He was buried in Ayrshire in Scotland, and 40 days later government troops came along and dug him up and reburied him 2 miles away. So we've used the monument as a bit of shelter to get something to eat, and now we're about to set off again, but before we go I'll show you the views. It's blowing a gale up here, it always does when I come up here, but beautiful 360-degree views. So Pennine Way heads down into this valley and then goes up slightly to the right. Eventually you'll go into the trees. It's an absolutely stunning place, this, it's really beautiful. These ferns are as high as my daughter. Massive. I hate walking through ferns. It's Very overgrown, the Pennine Way here. It's very rough going here, very overgrown. We're kind of walking on the remains of an old dry stone wall actually. It's very steep as well. Much better path now, better than all that overgrowth. There's the pepper pot over there, so just come down that big hill and then up this one. That's another camera mount broken. Great, just dropped the camera. Camera's fine, the mount's broken though. The views just get better and better and better the more you do this. You don't know where to look. Everywhere is beautiful. There's another boundary stone there. Looks like either a C or a GH. There's quite a few of these boundary stones. It's definitely a CH, not a G. You get another boundary stone. There's quite a few of these, all CHs. I wonder if there's any more further along. We're heading this way. Eventually we're going to go into the trees. Incidentally, this is all part of Kielder Forest. This area would have once all been forest, but it's all been felled. We're supposed to be walking through the forest now. We might still get a bit of forest towards the end. There's Bellingham, 9 3/4 miles in the direction where we've just come, the Pennine Way. And we're going to head off in that direction now, through the forest. I did not expect that I would see anybody on this hike, and yet we have 2 hikers behind. That couple are busy walking the Pennine Way, section hiking it. My daughter's really feeling it now. Keep having to stop to give her a break. So far we're on about, what we're now, 9 miles?
I think we're 11 now, ish. Oh, well maybe 9, maybe 10. 15.5 k.
Yeah, about 9 or 10 miles. Oh, look at that view. Pretty amazing. I don't normally like walking through these kind of forests, but this one's like the track's nice and wide, so you don't feel claustrophobic in it. It's quite nice, quite pleasant. It's almost like feeling as if you're walking in Canada or somewhere. It's amazing here, like. It's nice to see some mixed deciduous wood amongst the evergreens. My daughter's really struggling now. I think this will be the longest walk she's ever done. So it's 11.4, 11.5 miles. So she's doing good, but she's struggling. We're nearly at the end. Got one more thing to show you before we get to the end though. The car's in sight now, just over there. Before we get there, we're going to take a small detour into the woods to see something. And detour was a lot closer to the cars than I thought. We're heading this way on the Hindhope Lynn Trail. Wild bilberries. A couple of them are just starting to ripen now. This is probably my favourite waterfall in Northumberland here, like with like lots of little rapids and stuff as well. How beautiful is that? That's a nice deep pool, that like. What a way to finish a walk, eh? Starting to wish I brought a towel now, could have had a dip in there. Certainly deep enough and big enough for a swim. This is one of my favourite places in Northumberland here. It's definitely my favourite waterfall. So Neil, what did you think of this one?
Well, as you can probably see, a little bit dishevelled after this one. It's the first one back after the lockdown period. We've got lockdown bods, well at least I have, and it was 20k, about 11-12 mile I think it was. 5.5 hours walking, a little bit knackered. It was good fun, good to get out and about today. There's a little section that I didn't like, which was up a steep hill full of ticks and kind of, well, it wasn't full of ticks, but it was there's a little bit overgrown, a bit too wild for my liking, but other than that it was straight paths all the way, really easy to follow, really easy to find. Take lots of sandwiches, bottle of beer, you're sorted.
So yes, that was a very good walk, fully enjoyed it. The scenery was just absolutely spectacular, 360-degree panoramas nearly all the way. It was just so beautiful. Not so much history on this one. I mean, the bastle at the very beginning, Peden's monument itself, but other than that, not much in the way of history. But that waterfall, to finish with that waterfall at the end, that was just beautiful place, really beautiful, and an excellent way to finish a good walk after the lockdown. So if you like the walk, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment below, hit the subscribe button for the next adventure, share with your friends on social media, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Digging through a closet, walled cities, past lives in boxes. Music absorbed till it seeped from my skin.